Mothers of married sons who don't like their daughter-in-laws, what's your reason? My son married a psychobic. First, she told him she was pregnant. Then she said she was having twins. A little while later, she said she lost the babies. Then she said one miraculously survived, but when she got her period she determined that it had died too. As soon as her period was over, she told him she was pregnant again and she lost those babies too. She refused to take a pregnancy test and never once went to see a doctor, much less an OB-GYN, although I offered to pay for it. Pretty sure the goof was never once pregnant. Son caught her cheating with her ex-boyfriend and she claimed that her ex was ARPing her. Son called the police. The ex told the police that she'd traded sex for a cell phone. Then she accused my son of domestic violence. Cops didn't arrest him, though. They took her to a psychiatric hospital. Needless to say, I was happy when they divorced. But I keep a restraining order against her just to make sure she never shows back up on my doorstep. Mine was a cheating addict who strung my son along through a whole pregnancy full of lies. The baby came out a few too many shades off to pass as my son's. She even tried to take my son to court for child support. Until her lawyer laid eyes on my son and told her to forget it. She stole and pawned a lot of my son's belongings along the way too. She never got clean. Never got help. And has done this whole thing to yet another man since. People offering the perspective we've heard a million times. Reddit's average age is about 23. And skews heavily male. A woman old enough to have a daughter-in-law is a huge outlier. Then that don't like their daughter-in-law cuts the field even further. Then we're asking a personal question to which Redditors are likely to dislike anyone who answers. I wouldn't hold my breath for a deluge of responses. Wow, not one response from a real mill. I am one. But I like my dill just fine. I don't interfere. Just dote a bit on the grandkids when I visit. She and my son are a good match. I feel sorry for the kids dealing with grief coming from their own moms. My grandmother hated my mother because my father was married once before and it doesn't count the second time. Basically, she preferred his ex to my mom. Because divorce. I'm not making assumptions based on her behavior or things my mother said. She actually said that to me in those exact words many times as she gave my half-siblings gifts but not me. Grandpa snuck me gifts behind her back. Though. Because he wasn't an awful person. She was clearly a horrible person. Not an average mill who just dislikes her dill. Gold digging WH. I was with a woman I thought would be my wife. We talked about it. Looked at rings, etc. She was Catholic. I'm not. Her mom hated my guts because I wasn't Catholic. Her mom would send her emails monthly saying, "He isn't Catholic. He's not rich and never will be. Find yourself a rich Catholic boy so you don't have to work." etc. etc. The mom got to the point where she spread rumors to my ex's friends about me. So now the mom and a bunch of her friends don't like me. So she left me in January. I've barely spoken to her. I got in touch with her the other day and told her how badly I want her back. Turns out, she's got herself a wealthy Catholic boyfriend now. 3 years being with her and being broken up for 4 months. I still dream about her every night and she moved on a few weeks after the split. Feels badman. Honestly. If she moved on that quickly, she moved on a long time ago. My grandma hated my uncle's wife. I think it was pure jealousy. Grandma was a bit of a controlling type and hated being replaced. She treated my uncle like a child. Sadly, he died of cancer while still pretty young. Grandma tried to rewrite the obituary and managed to piss off my uncle's wife and children for a very long time. My mom hated my brother's first wife. There were plenty of good reasons. She was an addict, a liar, and a cheater, among other things. My mill didn't hate me, but she didn't love me either. She resented me and wanted to be the only woman in my husband's life. It was obvious that she would have felt like that about anyone. I did not like my son's first girlfriend. She seemed very disinterested in everything but herself and her phone. I didn't really know her well or for long, but struggled to see what he liked about her beyond her looks. She was pretty. I know why my mom doesn't like my sister-in-law. She's unpleasant and mean. Every time we went to visit, she will make sure there's at least one fight with my brother. At least one yelling, drag out fight. So now every time we're trying to enjoy a visit, it's tense because we're waiting for the inevitable. Watching my nephew watch his parents scream at each other is the worst part. My brother went from doing okay, having friends and a sense of humor, and some shti, to now being overweight, unhappy, and having nothing to do on the weekends but drink and watch TV. Which he then picks a fight about. He's so wrapped up in it even when I try to get him alone for a while. It takes him a while to unwind. Otherwise, he puts me down so he doesn't feel awful. It sucks. I used to be best friends with my brother, and Ma knows it too, and hates her as much as she can. Mainly, it's pity because it's clear she's a miserable person. I love both my daughters-in-law now, but at one time, my oldest was very serious and talking marriage with a girl that no one I knew liked except my son. She was really arrogant with no particularly good reason for being so. She didn't appear to like anyone else either. She was just very bad-natured. I was upset for my son but also relieved when she broke it off. He'd hit a bad patch and was out of work, so she started seeing someone else. Fun story time. My co-worker and I both have terrible mills. We always complain to each other because we got it, and it's hard to talk to your husband about it because they clearly love their parent and their parent treats them well. One day she turns to me and says, I know I am going to hate my future daughter-in-law because no matter who she is or what she does, she will never be good enough for my baby. My response: so basically you want to be your mother-in-law? Her eyes got really big and she was horrified that she would act the way our mill would without even knowing who he was possibly ever going to meet. He was in middle school at the time and years away from being that serious with anyone. I am pretty sure that is the mentality of my own mother-in-law. I have a relative who hates their daughter-in-law because she wouldn't allow her husband to donate his bone marrow to save his brother who had leukemia. Her logic being, one of your sons is already screwed up. Why would you potentially want to screw up the second one? Say what now? Bone marrow donation is painful but not all that risky. I mean, he's entitled to say no. But that's a dumbass reason to do so. Does she realize bone marrow grows back? It's like a slight more intense version of giving blood. Also, the husband needs to grow some balls. I'm assuming because he was supposed to marry a woman and give her grandbabies, but instead is marrying a man who doesn't even want to adopt for the foreseeable future. I'm curious if anyone will come here, as a mother who dislikes her daughter-in-law, admit it for anything other than I knew she was trash. She cheated and broke his heart kind of dislike, you know. A situation where she was clearly validated in the end. My mill would dig a grave and bury herself in it before consciously admitting, even to herself, she doesn't like me and makes sure I know it at every chance. There's just such a cognitive dissonance in the way she thinks of herself and the way she truly is. And I bet that's quite common. My mother hates my wife of 9 years and always has. My wife is half Hispanic. Had a son from a previous marriage. Had a father who was an ex-con and feels that my wife was taking me from her. I'm the only child who lived near them. She would go as far as to invite me and my wife's daughter to do things and not my wife and stepson. My father wasn't much better either. Needless to say that I had to cut ties with my parents. I'm also much happier since then. My mill hates me. She'll talk shit behind my back but try and be nice as pie to my face. How do I know this? Because it's my husband she talks to. According to Mill. Even though we all started out on council estates. Because they bought their own home. I'm not the right class. Because I have a degree. I'm taking the piss out of my husband's intelligence. Because I'm 7 years older than my husband. I've obviously brainwashed him into abandoning her. Because I don't make a ton of money. I'm a gold digging WHR who only wants him for his money, despite him being depressed, jobless and suicidal when I met him, and because I have tattoos. I've obviously got massive issues. My husband eventually got told that he should move back home with them, and as a sop, he could still be in a relationship with me. He told her that if she made him choose, she'd lose. She's been coldly civil to me ever since. My mom hated my wife and I don't know why. My wife is beautiful, smart, kind and has never done anything to my mom. I mean, frankly, my wife is way too good for me. She's always been nice and a great mom to her grandkids. I guess my mom had this way of making these kind of backhanded comments. I never noticed it and kind of dismissed my wife about it for the first 5 years of our marriage. One day she admitted that she didn't like my wife and that was it. Haven't talked to my family in 2 years now. Best decision I've ever made. My mill sees me as competition. She doesn't like that she doesn't have control of her son anymore and that he's allowed to make his own decisions. I don't play her games or feed into her narcissism. And she hates everyone. Unless she can benefit from them. So there's that. That was my mother. She accused my wife of changing me. I wasn't as fun anymore. All that really changed was that I was growing up. You can't invite 30-year-old me over and expect 15-year-old me to show up. My mother-in-law never liked me much. She didn't hate me, but I am pretty sure she thought her son was better than me. Plus, to her, if you aren't blood, you aren't family. She had pictures all over her house of her other kids, of my kids, of my husband, but not one single picture of me. I spent 20 years trying to get her to like me, and then suddenly I just didn't care anymore. I was pleasant, helped out when needed, but just did not give a rat's ass. Made everything much easier. The thing I'm proudest of is that my kids have no idea. She's dead now and I have never said a bad word about her to them. They loved her. But at her funeral I was told to go in with the rest of the people. That this part was just for family. I think it is awesome of you to not tell your kids. My mom talked a lot about our family. In a bad way. That gave me reasons to not trust them as a kid. Even if they were great relatives and nice to me. My mother hates my fiancé registered sign simply because he is a recovering heroin addict. The fact that I am one too seems to make no difference. What's more, his family is so lovely to me and it makes me really sad that he can't have the same experiences with my family. My mother doesn't like my brother's wife because said mother happens to be a narcissistic asshole who wanted him to pick her as the number one in his life. My mom was hesitant at first because oh no, same sex, how am I gonna get grandbabies? SHHH mom. It's okay. You have 2 more chances with my siblings, but also none of us are you grandbabies. She also seems to struggle with her perception of my partner's intelligence and anxiety. On the other hand, my partner's mother constantly bitches about how I lack a real job. I am physically disabled and autistic, making most typical entry-level jobs hell if not impossible. I do the budgeting and whatnot. Partner is dyscalculic learning disabled. Which ties into my mom's issue regarding smarts. We aren't on benefits. And I do art as well. She knows all of this. But that's not good enough. Of course. We work really well together. For the record. Almost a brains and brawn sorta deal. Our strengths and weaknesses suit each other nicely. Wait, so LWT me get this straight. You both have legit medical disabilities that prohibit you from doing certain tasks. You found each other and complement each other on your own shortcomings to become successful in life, and somehow your parents find this not good enough? Marianne. Bring me my shotgun. He should have chosen me. Should have broken his arms in that case. My in-laws didn't like me at first because we are different races and speak different languages. They came around when they saw how happy their son was and when I started learning their language. It's been several years and I can't speak their language, but I understand a lot, so we get along fine. My mom just told me under no uncertain terms that I am not allowed to marry my girlfriend of 5 years. If you're an adult you can marry whoever the FCK you want. FCK off mom. Dude. You're an adult. You don't need your mother's consent. And if you want and you think your girlfriend is the one, you can tough it out until you are an adult. I wouldn't advise marrying quick. I'd wait until you know for sure that you guys are in love with each other. But I'm not anyone to tell you what to do. Nip that tea in the bud, dude.